Presentations by our student teachers in agricultural education. An opportunity for them to evidence their answer to three essential questions. Who do I aspire to be as a teacher? What essential opportunities have I engaged in to become a better agriculture educator? And how am I prepared to maximize my student teaching internship? Our candidate presenting this afternoon is Ms. Stacia Creed, who is preparing to complete her internship with Ms. Melanie Burnson in Wellsboro. Stacia.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming. So you may get confused here and there because those of you that don't know me, I go by Stacia Creed and Stacia Gouger because I just got married this past summer. So here's a little bit about me since I don't know most of you. So this map is obviously of Pennsylvania, and I put 4 stars that have had meaning for my life and will have meaning for my life. So it starts out over here. I spent a lot of my time in Carbon and Monroe County. I kind of see it as that Monroe County, Carbon County line. I basically played jump rope with it my whole life. I switched back and forth between the two, but unfortunately for me, there's no ag ed in those counties, so I was not familiar with ag education for a lot of my life until my undergrad career. But I did fall in love with agriculture all over here, and I grew up on a farm with my parents, and I decided that I wanted to pursue a degree in livestock science, so I came down here to Doylestown and to attend Delaware Valley College, which is now Delaware Valley University. So I have received my Bachelor's of Science degree in Livestock Science and Management, and instead of going to vet school, which was my plan to start, I graduated a semester early and made my way out to Center County here at Penn State, and I decided that agricultural education was something that I wanted to pursue. I thought that I loved agriculture and I wanted to share that love with other people, especially I really feel like I missed out on the ag ed portion since I didn't have it in high school, so I really want to make sure that I provide that experience to other students. But while here at Penn State, I've developed a teaching philosophy at the very beginning of my studies, and I think that over time I've enhanced my philosophy, and you can find that in your handouts as well. I think it's the 3rd page. So I think that more than anything, it hasn't necessarily changed, but enhanced. I really have a passion for hands-on learning. That's something that was important at Del Val, and something that I think is important at Penn State, and something that in general is important to me. So I want to make sure that wherever I end up, I can provide that experience for students, because I think that you learn a lot more by doing than you do just by hearing about it. And I also think that I've developed a lot more appreciation for student ownership of their own learning while here. I think that I have grown as a student and as an individual here at Penn State, and I think that I definitely want to encourage students to take advantage of opportunities and know what they want and go for it. So my journey will continue up here in Tioga County in Wellsboro, and I'll tell you a little bit more about the department in a little bit. So my teaching highlight is variability. So while here at Penn State, we learned about Rosenstein and first effective characteristics of teaching. And basically, the PSU Ag Ed 16 cohort knows it as BCAW. So it's business-like, enthusiasm, clarity, opportunity to learn, and variability. And I think that one of my strengths is variability. So I'm going to play a short clip of my teachings evidencing variability. For a small class, I just want to make a more intimate setting so we can all talk and I'll join you guys. So who wants to share their teachings and alive?
So how do we break down the word pesticide into pest and side? We split it into. Do you guys know what pest would mean?
So you're going to take the words that we went over. Yeah, you don't have to do all of them, but maybe you just want to do like the front leg, or maybe you just want to do the vertebrae or something like that. But I want you to take the first letter of the words and create a sentence.
We did the vertebrae, and we took it from Grey's Anatomy and put so Callie took like 6 years.
Okay, so there is a longer video that I created of teaching highlights that has it's about 5 minutes and includes a lot more, and I have the links in the back of your handout if you're interested in looking at those. So my model program, I really want, no matter where I end up, I really want to evidence the 3-circle model, which includes classroom instruction / lab instruction, FFA and SAE, supervised ag experience. And I really want to make sure that I have all 3 circles because I really do wholeheartedly believe that you cannot have a successful program without having all 3. So classroom lab instruction, I put that it's essential content knowledge, hands-on learning, and BCOB. I really want, whatever program I end up at, I really want to try and evidence all of those Rosenstein and First, BCOB, essential characteristics of teaching, so I really think that I could provide great learning for students. And hands-on learning, like I mentioned. I also have up here a lab management plan that I created, which includes a project and a facility design that I might use and stuff like that, so I'll pass it around. An example is I created a shelf with some help. So I thought this was a great intro woodworking project for students. It's very simple, but they get practice with a planer, a saw, sander, things like that. So I thought it was a very good intro project for students. And like I said, I really want to have hands-on learning. So if I have woodworking capabilities, that's something that I'd probably start students off with. Supervised agricultural experience. I think that from my experience with ag education programs, from what I've heard, SAE is normally the first one to kind of lag behind. We might not, it may be difficult to visit all students in the program or get every student to be involved in SAE. So I really want to make sure that I really have that capability. I want to do my hardest job at trying to make sure that every student has an SAE, because there's always something that a student is interested in. So it'd be very important to me to develop that, show them what could come from it, whether that be exploratory, research, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's important to implement and make sure that every student has that personal experience. It develops a lot of responsibility financially and otherwise. So, and FFA, another component of the 3-circle model that's essential, and I really want to encourage all students to be involved. So, and be involved in the other circles as well. So throughout class instruction, which I have in my units and lesson plans, I would encourage students to be involved in public speaking or other CDs. So I really want to make sure that students can find something for them in FFA, because it really is limitless. So continuing on for a model program. So this is kind of a general idea of what a program I think should have. I'm sorry if there's no ag mechanics on here, but I'm not very inclined in agricultural mechanics. But I would say that I would implement it in other ways too. So like intro to ag science, I would definitely make sure that there's an introductory unit in my ideal program, ag mechanics, and other types of hands-on stuff would be in like maybe a tech or something. So students still have the opportunity to be involved in that. I think that's definitely essential. But I would hope that I could at least just give them a taste of what those topics could be like, and then they could pursue other lessons. So here's kind of an example of a half of the year that would include all the units in those ideal classes that I put. So I didn't have a lot of animal science because that is what my bachelor's degree is in. So that's where my passion for agriculture really blossomed, is in animal science. I would include plant science, natural resources, environmental science, things like that, because those are all, I think, very related to agriculture. And that's kind of what the second half of the semester would look like. I would definitely try and implement guest speakers for just to get students even more familiar with topics and kind of see a different point of view. I would definitely integrate SAE and FFA into these units, like I mentioned before, whether that be relating to FFA CEs or introducing students to possible SAE projects, etc. So engagement, I think, is absolutely essential for agricultural education. I think even more so for me, since I never even heard of agricultural education at the high school level until college. So it really hits home with me that I really want to share that with communities, potential students, anyone that would listen, basically, because I didn't get to be involved in it, and I think that it's great to be able to show other students. So this is a video that I made with two of my cohort members, and it's a recruitment video for agricultural education, and something that I could use in the future.
We are agricultural educators.
So, if I were, probably would just show this to my students as an example and then have them develop a video, ideally, because I think that it'd be important for students to really share what they love about ag ed. So they could develop it any way they wanted, but I think it's a great tool just to kind of engage potential students, maybe administrators, maybe the community, depending on the situation. So course preparation highlights. Like I mentioned before, I graduated from Del Val, so I have a variety of courses that I could reach out about since I've now been in school about 6 years of college. So animal anatomy and physiology was a course at Delaware Valley College or University that I took that I think was a highlight of mine, because not only was the content really there that I could use in the future, but it was a course that really opened my eyes to different ways to test students, just because it wasn't a normal test. You had notes and all that you created yourself throughout every single week. So I think I learned a lot in that class and some of the strategies I would use in the future. Young Women's Literature was another class I took at Del Val. Every student had to take at least one like a literature course. And I think that this one was very interesting to me because there's Young Women's Lit and there's also Young Men's Lit. And it kind of opened my eyes to younger people since I'm no longer super young. So I think it was just kind of interesting to look at literature and how young women develop and things like that. And I think I could relate it to students. And AEE 311, which is developing youth leadership through organization and program structure. I put this one down there because this was a turning point for me because, like I mentioned a bunch of times now, I didn't have ag ed in high school, so I was very new to the whole FFA, SAE, how does all that stuff work. So AE 311 was really the course that gave me all the background that I need, I think, to really understand FFA. And I also brought a project that I developed in 311, which is the SAE implementation guide. So you can pass that around. Like I said, that's what Stacia creates, so also Stacia gathered. 412 was another course that I put as a highlight, and I think many of my cohort members will probably choose the same course. It's really the course that brought everything together. I mean, it's hard to pick just a few courses because we've learned so much, and so many of the courses will bring everything together, especially this last semester. for student teaching. So certifications and accreditations, my Bachelor's of Science from Delaware Valley College. I graduated a semester early in December 2013, magna cum laude. I've also received my safe tractor driving certification, beef quality assurance, and my poultry technician. And I also had on there accredited parliamentarian, I don't know. But those are just some of the accreditations that I've been able to get over the last couple of years that I'll be able to use in the classroom. So professional development is something that I'll be honest, I didn't have a lot of experience in at Del Val, and it was quite a difference coming to Penn State when we're so into professional development. And I'm so happy that even in my short 2 years here, I've been able to attend a lot of professional development workshops. It's something that I hope to continue in the future as much as possible. So some of the examples of Global Learning and Agriculture Conference I attended last year. Basically, I really wanted to attend because of my experiences in global ag, and it was a great experience to be able to meet new people and also reconnect with people that I met before. I also went to the AAAE conference, which is the American Association for Agricultural Educators, this past summer in San Antonio. So bringing it back to the state level, I went to the Pennsylvania Association for Ag Educators for the summer conference back this past summer. Also attended a Northern Region meeting with my cooperating teacher. And the National Alphabet Convention workshops, I just added that on there because National Alphabet Convention, if you've never gone, is a great experience. So I was able to not only have that great experience of being there the first year I went, the second year being a teacher or advisor, but then also being able to attend the workshops to develop my professional. So some connections. So I mentioned I went to the Global Learning and Ag Conference and was able to reconnect with some people. Republic of Korea. So I went on a trip with the Ag Ed department last summer. So that was a whole month we spent in South Korea. I took about a week of language lessons in Korean. I can't really say I learned a crazy amount of their language. It's very difficult, but I have much respect for it. I also got to spend a week in Nicaragua this past March over spring break. So that was another global experience that I had. Republic of Korea, when I was in South Korea, I had the opportunity to actually teach students at high school level. So we worked with an ag educator from the United States who kind of like coached us. And then it was a Penn State student and a Seoul National University student, so a Korean student. So we worked together to kind of develop a lesson, and the ag educator was our like coach, like, oh, this will be good. Oh, you know, do that. So that was kind of helpful. It was kind of a 3-person thing, and I was able to teach to a group of students with the help of my translator from Seoul National University. So that was a great experience to work with diverse learners, as well as my experiences with workforce ed. As some of you may know, you work with special needs students. So that those two experiences were my highlights of diverse learners, and they were both very different, very necessary experiences in my opinion. Nicaragua, I didn't get to work with any students, but it was more of just expanding my knowledge of agriculture globally. So between Korea and Nicaragua, I think that I have, even though it's only 2 countries out of the whole world, I think I have very diverse knowledge of their agriculture because their agriculture is very different. So both very good experiences that I can relate to students in the classroom. I was also an intern at the Carbon County Environmental Education Center the summer before I came to Penn State. So that was a great experience that I had that, again, it just expanded my knowledge of environmental and natural resources, I would say. I also did have the experience of conducting lessons for younger kids, mostly like community lessons. So I would go to a campground and there'd be a bunch of little kids and I would teach them about all these animals and I'd let them pet the possum and stuff like that. So it was a different experience and it definitely expanded my knowledge, and I can relate that knowledge to agriculture. And that picture there is I got to be involved with goose tagging, so we catch geese and tag them or record their tag number so you can keep track of flocks and whatnot. So also at Del Val, I was an orientation leader and our ambassador, so I put that on there because it really, again, it expanded my skills with students of all ages. So although they weren't high school students anymore, they were in that transition period between high school and college, and I was kind of there to be their mentor. So as for those two titles, for ambassador, I was a tour guide for students interested in Del Val, and for orientation leader, I was the mentor and tour guide of students that have already been accepted and are moving in. So I think it gave me the experience of how to interact with students, especially students that are new and are scared of college. They were something different to work with. So I feel like it expanded my ability to work with students in all situations. Okay, so where am I going? So if you remember the picture, Wellsboro is right there in Cuyahoga County. So my cooperating teacher is Mrs. Melanie Ritson, and it's a single teacher program at the Wellsboro High School. So there's a classroom area that is pretty versatile. I think that they can do a lot of lab stuff in there as well. But then there's a lab area specifically that has like one large table, all their storage, and a very diverse amount of animals. They have a whole room dedicated to meat rabbits, so they breed them and stuff. So it's great experience for students. They also have guinea pigs, and they raise fish, and there's a bird, and they had a chinchilla that just died 2 weeks ago. Rest in peace. So very diverse animals to work with for the students, especially since they have an animal science class, animal science 2. So lots of experience for students available. So in program planning, which is a course required the last semester before you student teach, we learn a lot about Chapter 339. So I think about Wellsboro, and I think about what strengths and weaknesses it has. And I know I don't have a ton of experience in ag ed, but I really think that Wellsboro has a very ideal program, implementing all 3 circles of the model. Students are heavily involved. So lots of strengths. And if I had to pick a point of improvement, I would probably say integrating more online work, just because right now Mrs. Bergson is in the process of developing online courses for students to take, just to meet the needs of all sorts of students, especially being the 21st century. Online is kind of where everything's going. So I would say that would probably be a point of improvement, and that's something that she's been really working on perfecting. So these are the units I will be teaching while student teaching. So like I said, animal science 1 and 2. She'll be teaching 2 courses in animal science and then animal science 2. Natural resources, ag leadership, intro to ag, and plant science. I think I have a pretty good variety. I'm not going to be teaching ag mechanics or anything. I have a mechanics of agriculture, kind of an introductory thing, an intro to ag unit. So I'll be touching base with students a little bit in that, getting a little taste of ag mechanics. But just some kind of like ideas through that. My greenhouse management unit over in plant science, that's the one where I'm going to be engaging the community. So that's my community-based unit of instruction. So what I'm going to have students do is plant marigolds, and then go teach elementary students about plants and what they need, and germination or whatever else. I think I'm going to really try and get it to be student-led. So the high school students themselves, I really want them to be the ones to say, well, photosynthesis is the most important, so we want to teach little kids this. So I really want to try and give them some ownership of the project, possibly like brochures or posters or something for the students. They can see pictures. Obviously with elementary students, not too crazy, lots of words or anything. But also throughout the other units, I'm going to have like mock interviews in the job interview section. I'm going to have students build a solar cooker in one of the natural resources lessons, and like fecal flow analysis, kind of ones that are done there. So students are going to be able to look at fecal samples under a microscope and be able to identify like, oh, this animal has worms, or what type of awards are they, that sort of thing. So just a little bit of information on my master calendar, which is also in the handout. So in January 11th was the first day of student teaching, and that is when we'll be going to Farm Show, which is the midwinter convention. And that's also student testing that week. So the first week I will kind of just be helping out and assisting as needed. And then I'll jump right into health management the second week in animal science. Since animal science is obviously a strength of mine, that's the class that I'm right off the bat, right as soon as students are ready to go, I'm going to be teaching health management in animal science. And then parasitology, and so for February, some of the highlights will be ACEs, so we're going the 13th and the 14th, and what else? So there's also HOSS night, which is meet the state officers, so that's something that the students, that FA members are going to be able to meet who the Pennsylvania state officers are and kind of do a little bit of bonding, that sort of thing. And sorry, it's a little hard to read. It might be better in Word. So highlights for March is SLLC. So that is going to be the second week of March right there through the weekend. And the other important thing that I marked is officer interviews for Wellsboro. So those will be conducted with the FFA chapter. There's also an FFA meeting monthly. It's at the end of the month in March. So April is my last week, or my last month of student teaching. So that is when I'm going to be teaching pretty much everything, and I'm going to be jumping right into everything. I've marked some like local things like the dairy judging. There's the chapter banquet is while I'm there, so I get to experience that. And that'll be my first ever chapter banquet. Also tractor driving at the end of the month and everything. So just kind of wrap it up. I had a lot of time over the semester, just like professional development and a lot of other aspects. Penn State really encourages reflection because if you don't reflect, how are you going to get any better if you're just going to speak? So I think that my strengths are that I'm determined, compassionate, and organized. I really feel like through student teaching and through my experiences, I have been organized and determined, and I think that I am more than capable of keeping that up through student teaching. I want to do my best, and I'll prove to myself that I can do it, especially since I haven't been that familiar with ag ed. I really want to get as much as I can out of the experience. So some points of improvement. Enthusiasm. So I've been trying to work on it, and I think that I've gotten better, but it is an essential element of teaching, according to Rosenstein first. So I really want to, throughout my student teaching, really focus on enthusiasm, because that's probably one of the biggest marks that I've gotten throughout the semester. Is like, oh, just trying to put it up a little bit. So I'm trying to work on that. Also confidence. I found myself a little doubting myself a little bit just because of my lack of familiarity with ag ed, and I've had so much instruction in animal science and not as much on some of the other subjects like plant science and things. So I really want to work on my confidence and build up my content knowledge so I can effectively teach it to students. And enhance strengths. So I think that even just because they're strengths doesn't mean they don't also need to be worked on. And I also wanted to just touch on this beautiful group of people right here that I've like my whole life. So we were told to kind of talk about what we bring to the table. And even though I'm not the most enthusiastic person in the group, I'm not the loudest personality, I think that's all right. I think that more than anything, I've been helpful. I think that I try my hardest to help anyone out, no matter who they are. I can honestly say that I adore everyone in that picture. I feel like I belong with everyone. I can talk to anybody if I need something, and I hope that they can all feel the same way to me. And I really want to keep that going as it's out of students. Like obviously I have to keep that line there. They can't just see me as a friend and have to respect me as a teacher, but I want to make sure that they know that I care about them as people and as students. And Dr. Foster has said to us they won't care what you know until they know you care. And I think that that is something that I really wholeheartedly believe. So if you'd like to hear more about my ag adventures, I really encourage you to follow me on Twitter at station_Gouger, and there's my blog. It's also in the back of your handouts, along with the video links if you'd like to check those out. Thank you.
Show our appreciation for Stacy. We're now in the second phase, and this phase is questions. We'll accept questions from both the virtual audience and the face-to-face audience and the teacher education panel as we go forward. And this time we're going to start the question with the teacher education panel. And so who would like to provide a question from the panel?
You want me to? Okay, I will ask it first. All right, so my question is, describe for me the professional dispositions of an excellent educator.
When I think of professional dispositions, the first thing that comes to mind is learning, because I think an educator cannot effectively educate without continuously learning throughout their personal experiences. So it's the first thing that comes to mind, because I think that as an educator, you have to be willing to learn if you expect others to learn.
And from the audience, is there a question from the audience?
What are you most looking forward to in this spring?
See, I was waiting for that question, and I don't even know. I'm so excited for everything that I can't really pinpoint. I'd like to say that I'm most excited for animal science, because that's where my true love is, and I feel like I can really share that with students. But I also am really excited about teaching the stuff that I'm not as comfortable with, like plant science. Like I'm learning as I'm planning, so it's kind of exciting to be able to learn kind of with students, but better know a little bit before I start. So, yeah.
Stacey, I'd like to talk to you about how do we make decisions on a curriculum and an agriculture education programs. How do we determine the appropriate curriculum for a community? Is it just on what the teacher likes, or are there other factors that we take into consideration?
No, there's absolutely, you're right, other factors. I put that together with the thought that I could say, well, we'll get that from somewhere else. But obviously the needs need to be met, I think, mostly by the community, because I think that if there's certain industries within the community, then those need to be met through the courses. And that can be discussed through the Ag Advisory Councils to kind of understand what is needed in that community specifically.
Thank you. Back to the audience. You can pass if we don't have anything. Okay. Teacher education panel.
Stacia, what do you speak a little bit to what your greatest concern is going into CTG beyond the lack of maybe content knowledge?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that because I skipped over talking about my classroom management. So sorry about that. But I think that classroom management, although we've had a lot of experience with like demolition derbies or discipline derbies, sorry. We're not actually so although we had that experience, I never felt like the real classroom, especially since the week and more that, you know, we're there in 4 or 5 weeks that your decisions up to that point will kind of determine how the students start acting in your class. So I do have the posters up there. I really want to push respect in the classroom, and I think that will help with my classroom management if I develop a class rapport with that revolves around respect. So that's my most important expectation. I think class procedures obviously is another way to manage a classroom. I hope that starting on the first day, students will know, like, this is where I sit down, I do bell work, and then we start the lesson. So I think that having that continuity from day to day will help with the classroom management and the consequences if they do not follow rules. So I have in there, they have a verbal warning, loss of class participation points, and then it would go from there. But yeah, so I think classroom management is something that I'm worried about. The discipline derbies have helped, and micro-teaching, for those of you not super familiar, we did, the PSU 916 cohort did spend 3 days. We taught a 3-day unit to a classroom of students, so that was kind of helpful to kind of see, like, okay, it's been a while since I've been in high school, how these kids act with a teacher, especially a new teacher. So yeah, classroom management.
Thank you. Audience? How do we talk about, Stacia, how to recruit representative populations? What does that mean, representative populations?
far as students.
Mhm.
I think that, again, if I have a classroom built around respect, I think that I could recruit students of all types of backgrounds, whether that be socioeconomic status, whether that be ethnicity, or whatever it may be. Maybe it's gender. Maybe it's something as simple as all boys are in FFA, but there's only 2 girls involved. I think that recruitment is essential to be to the success of an agricultural education program, because if you don't have those students involved, you don't really have much of a program. So I think that I would, like nothing even specific, I think I would just try and include every student I could, and keep the recruitment broad enough that I think that I could appeal to just about any interest or background in the student.
Thank you. Any other questions for either the teacher education panel or the audience?
Was that a yes or no? I did. So you mentioned chapter 339 in your presentation, and I did have a second to flip through your evaluations and the next job on that as well as for. My question to you is, philosophically, what is your decision? Where do you come down on compliance versus improvement when you hear chapter 339?
Well, improvement,
Okay.
because I think that I could use the chapter 339 as like my reflection block, like continually, like it's something that you need to look at and like, well, how am I doing this? Am I doing it effectively? I think it's just something that, although it may seem like a compliance, like homework or something, I think that it is essential to a program because you can't just. I don't think that you can just stay the same. I think you need to evolve over time. I think the chapter 339 will help in developing a program.
Do you have any other questions? I think this will be your last question, Stacey. What will be your legacy at your cooperating center?
Honestly, I've been thinking a lot about what I want to leave behind at Willsboro, and I think that more than anything, I want people to know that I care, whether that is about each student individually, whether that is about what a parent thinks about my teaching, whether that be about the content itself. I think that I've kind of gone through life trying to care about things, because I've been told that I have a lot of feelings. So I want to, that's what I want to leave behind. I want people to know that I care.
Thank you. Let's show our appreciation for Stacey. Thank you so much for coming. We have one more presentation today at 2:45 with Olivia Murphy-Sweet, who will be student teaching in Philadelphia. And then tomorrow we kick off at 8:45 with Sarah Beth Royer. So it should be fun. At this time, we'll